Welcome, it's Facts You Don't Know. If it's your first time here and you want to find out new facts that will definitely make you smarter and more, well, and first make sure to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss anything.
A brief history of the island. It began as the site of a lighthouse until, after the Mexican-American War, President Millard Fillmore ordered it to be used as a military base in 1850. Over the Civil War, it continued to serve in military capacity and, moreover, started holding Confederate war prisoners. It was used primarily as a military prison until the Department of Justice acquired the island as the worst of the worst felons in 1933 for use as a maximum security prison. As part of the Federal Bureau of Prisons program, 137 inmates were transported from Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and Alcatraz began service the next year. It remained part of the program until the 1963 closed order of Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. Prisoner number AZ-1441, Frank L. Morris, arrived at Alcatraz on the 3rd of January 1960, the day after JFK declared his presidential candidacy. Morris was a professional inmate, having spent the better part of his life living behind bars. His career as a criminal started at the age of 13. Morris was born in Washington, D.C. on the 1st of September 1926 at Gallinger Hospital, recently referred to as D.C. General Hospital near RFK Stadium and closed in 2001. Not much of his childhood is known, but he was orphaned at the age of 11 and sent to live in foster homes, according to FBI records. A few years later, on the 13th of November 1940, he was convicted of robbery and sentenced to fix shoes at the National Training School for Boys, a reform school in Northeast D.C. Originally, the sentence was 6 years, 9 months, and 18 days, but in less than a year, he was paroled. Freedom didn't last long for Frank, as he violated it within a year and returned in 1943 to reform school in Chillicothe, Ohio. He was returned to D.C. in 1945 as an inmate at the National Boys Training School. Side note, Charles Manson was a school detainer in 1951. He spent time in the Louisiana State Penitentiary between the 19th of November in 1945 and July 12th, 1948, according to FBI files. Less than a year after his release, he was jailed for breaking and entering the Florida State Penitentiary. On 13th of June 1952, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for possession of drugs and armed robbery at the Louisiana State Penitentiary. Frank was clearly ensconced in a life of crime, and we don't need to run through his whole rap sheet. Only check it out below. Oh, by the way, did you know the rap sheet is an acronym for Arrest and Conviction Records? I have not. Frank Morris is being locked up at Alcatraz as prisoner number AZ-1441 after his long list of offenses. He begins to devise an escape scheme from the Rock after a number of successful attempts to escape from other prisons under his belt. Of course, no one has ever escaped from this jail successfully. Just 12 had been made prior to his attempt, involving 31 prisoners, all of whom were caught or died attempting. One escape in 1937 reports 2 inmates as never recovered but presumed dead. Morris has been advised he has an IQ borderline genius of 133 and masterminded the plot of escape. He had 3 scheme accomplices, Alan West, number AZ-1335, and the Clarence brothers, number AZ-1485, and John Englund, AZ-1476. The plan involved the men chiseling through the walls in their cells over the course of a year until the hole they created was large enough to crawl through. By May 1962, the holes were complete. 3 of the men were able to crawl through into an unused service corridor behind the wall. Unfortunately for West, the vent covering his hole was stuck and he was unable to get out, so Morris and the Englunds left him. As part of their plan, each of the men had fashioned dummy heads out of plaster, toilet paper, and hair from the prison barbershop. The heads were placed in their beds so the guards would think the inmates were still asleep. Last, a crude raft was fashioned out of rubber raincoats and plastic bags. What happened next was nothing short of amazing. The men were creeping through the empty hallway, up a shaft of pipes to the roof and across the building at the guards' tower, plain sight with their makeover equipment in tow. Somehow, they were able to shimmer down a 50-foot kitchen pipe that was attached to the wall, while the wall was sporadically illuminated with a searchlight, yet remained undetected. Someone in the guardhouse taking a little snoozer? They proceeded scaling 2 consecutive 12-foot barbed wire fences and heading to the northeast shore of the island for the raft to inflate. Around 10 p.m., they had set off that evening into the thick fog that filled the bay. They have never been seen again or heard from. A search party discovered the remnants of the Raincoat Raft at Angel Island, 2 miles north of Alcatraz, the next day. A small plastic bag containing the England's personal belongings was found alongside the raft. To add onto the mystery, footsteps were seen going off on the beach from the raft. The 3 were lawfully declared dead in 1979, and the FBI closed the case. The case was moved to the U.S. Marshal Service and reopened in 1993. The Marshal's Service official position is that the inmates probably drowned in their attempt, but their spokesman, Dave Branham, was quoted as saying, "We think there's a possibility they're alive." Today, 50 years later, the legend of that escape lives on. Most people say the men died in their escape, but there are a handful of people who think they did not. This is a story similar to that of D.B. Cooper, which is likely to remain unsolved. Frank, John, and Clarence still face a warrant. If they are still alive, they'll be glad to know that when everyone reaches their 100th birthday, those warrants will expire. One final point, a hit film based on this story was made in 1979. The cast led by Trainwreck of GOP convention, Clint Eastwood as DC Boy, and number AZ1441 inmate Frank Morris.
Thanks for watching. Please like and share the video in social networks. We'll be right back to you as fast as we can.